fantastic and always energetic and like a lightning bolt, in my opinion. Uh, just first on the just came on the show. Youri Smouter. Youri, is it Youri, right? Youri. Because I know if I have a friend of mine, we worked in solar together. Youri spelled Yuri. Yours is spelled Youri.
It's actually funny enough. I think I even emailed you this. It actually is supposed to be spelled Yuri because I was actually named after the first guy who went into space, the Russian who went into space, Yuri Gagarin. You can spell it Youri, and I think my parents, without. Yeah, so the parents spelled it Youri, but yes, it should be spelled the traditional Russian way, Yuri. And no, I'm not a Russian agent. In case people are, worried.
Well, once we start, if we say anything slightly or remotely negative about Biden, we're going to get that label. It's automatic.
Biden, Clinton, Obama, Franklin.
All of a sudden, you're just, you're Russia troll.
And it's an honor to be on. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, thank you for being here. Good seeing you. By the way, he's got a show on YouTube called 1+1. He's had some wonderful guests. It is good to know that there's other people like you out there. Just letting you know. There's so many other shows. Do you watch Jimmy Dore by any chance? Jimmy Dore?
Oh, yes. Love the Jimmy Dore show. Love Jimmy Dore. Love Graham Elwood's political vigilante.
Ron Percone, good stuff. I don't know if you've heard of the Progressive Soapbox with Jamal Thomas. The Progressive. I'll send you a list.
Jamal Thomas. I think I'm from. Hold up. I might be mistaking him for with a Jamar Reed because there's a black YouTube progressive who also has a show, but no, I don't think I'm familiar with the Progressive Soapbox. But I do know another soapbox which a journalist I really like, Rania Khalek.
What was the name? What was the name? Her name?
There's another thing called Soapbox, which Rania Khalek, who co-hosts a podcast called Unauthorized Disclosure with Kevin Bastola, who does independent journalism on the Shadowproof, who's been doing a lot of coverage of the Julian Assange case.
Good.
The only soapbox I'm familiar with is Rania Khalek's, which is very big on Facebook.
Excellent. There's another new one that came up, Slow News Day, which I'm starting to watch. You might want to look that up. This guy's had some great guests on the show. He hasn't been around that long either, but he's got some. He's really big on Julian Assange. They're doing the.
I've seen every single one of his interviews except for the most recent one with Whitney Webb, and I'm very envious
Whitney
of her.
Webb. Oh my God!
I've only had her on once. But him and Graham have been lucky that they've got to have Whitney Webb on more than once. And hey, anyone who actively seeks out Whitney Webb and she, entrusts them, to come back on the show more than once.
I would love to have Whitney Webb on my show. I swear to God. I just want to know more about her. A lot of people just hear about her, that she just throws up all this stuff. And it does stick to the wall, by the way, because it is factual and true, and you can research it, and she leaves her links and footnotes and everything, just like real journalists should do. There's another one, the Convo Couch. I watched the Convo Couch. They're really good too.
Yes. I do need to get more into the Convo Couch.
Pasta and feel.
But funny enough, what you're saying about Whitney Webb, because she's getting this derogatory term thrown at her, conspiracy theorist. And I have no idea where that's coming from, because I've been reading Whitney Webb's journalism for the past, I think, 3 going on 4 years, and she works for a very, she works for a very popular anti-imperialist, tends to be a very left-leaning website, Mint Press News.
Yes.
And what's bizarre about Whitney Webb getting called conspiracy theorist is, wait a minute, she was like the star muckraker on Mint Press News, did superb journalism debunking the Syria propaganda, debunking the anti-Russia conspiracy theories, also pushing back against the war for oil in Venezuela. and all sorts of other stuff.
The list
and
is
also
endless.
also going after the Israel lobby and Israel's human rights abuses. So I have no idea where this term, why the term conspiracy theory is being thrown at her.
Let me tell you something about. I think you know this is the conspiracy theorist. It just means that you're a person that takes a so-called questionable event, media source, and you're trying to, and you're looking into the theory. I am proud to be a conspiracy theorist. I am, and the reason for that is well, the CIA took that word and they gave it to the mainstream media. That term I meant to say, and they said you guys need to start using this so you can label conspiracy theorists as cuckoos. But the thing
it was
is,
a way, it was basically a way to shut people from from asking more questions about.
Don't watch that. They're conspiracy theorists. Don't watch that. But what usually happens, I would say 9 times out of 10, or 8 times at least out of 10, is those conspiracy theorists usually end up getting their information bona fide or confirmed. That their information in some way or another. Now, I'm not talking about lizard people or flat earth people, blah, 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 whatever.
Exactly.
But because you got to pick and choose. But what we're going through right now is some serious censorship. Some censorship that is just off the hook and terribly wrong for, and just so bad for our nation. It's just terribly, it's bad. What it's doing is it's like you're not able to do your own research, do your own due diligence, and look for yourself, because you have to be guided on what you know, what you see, what you hear. They have to hold your hand, right? It's like, fuck. So we're going through that.
Yeah, it's funny. I got into an argument with somebody on Twitter. Somebody on Twitter was praising the journalism of Max Blumenthal and his team at the Gray Zone, which is journalism to be applauded for. I'm not,
for sure.
Not bashing, but I was saying, but it's annoying how Whitney Webb is often left out of that conversation. So I was saying to him, you're leaving out somebody else in that list of journalists you admire, and that's Whitney Webb. And then he was saying to me, no, Whitney Webb, she and Vanessa Beeley, they're all conspiracy theorists when it comes to yours truly, COVID. And I was,
That Max said that? Hey, you broke up a little bit there. I don't know what just happened.
And I was looking at him and I was responding back on. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just you paused.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it happened on our end or whose end, but it paused.
Okay, but no, it wasn't Max Blumenthal saying that, but it was some random Twitter user. And I was saying to him, I was correcting him. I was saying to him, Whitney Webb, as far as I'm concerned, has never ever been on the record saying she denies that there is a coronavirus going on. All she is doing is just saying, be careful for all of these people who say they have the magical vaccine, and be careful for all of these people who say that we need to be ultra afraid of coronavirus, because these are the same scumbags, the neocons, these dodgy, the dodgy private medical industrial complex are weaponizing the coronavirus to not only censor people, but also to suspend civil liberties, and that their solution, whatever magical vaccine they have, is a very dodgy solution, and we should be afraid of them because look at these people's track records.
Right.
Now, other people, I can't speak for other people who may say that like hospital masks is akin to Hitler pointing a gun at you, or that hospital masks are ineffective. I'm of the opinion it's better to be safe than sorry, so I will wear my hospital mask. But that aside, Whitney Webb, as far as I'm concerned, is not a coronavirus denialist. She is just saying that, hey, the people who are coming to the rescue supposedly are people you should be very skeptical of. And then not just her, but also John Pilger, a journalist I really admire, has also said that that the British government and other governments knew well in advance that there was they trained for pandemics like this, and they knew well in advance that shit was about to hit the fan. But they either were criminally neglectful or either allowed this crisis to get out of control for them to either do more shock doctrine, more endless austerity, or to prop up people who are people who are very dodgy. And Whitney Webb has demonstrated this with the whole Dark Winter and Bill Gates and all that jazz.
Yes. So like you were saying, my mom made a mask for me, right? In California. Got some cool colors.
Oh, you got
on
a nice hospital mask,
right? And I guess you went under did the regulations, but I wear it, and I wear my N95, and I do it at the care and the courtesy and the respect of others. I mean, I have my opinions on this. I scamdemic in my professional opinion, and Jeff Bezos has made what I think last year he made, I think 30 billion extra, and this year he's already made like 80 billion extra already. I mean, and there's a lot of people profiteering from this, like immensely, investors and companies and corporations. There's a lot behind what's happened even before the COVID scam came up. There were CEOs and presidents of companies and just dropping and leaving, or which is very odd. Like not your normal, okay, we got 10-15% of these CEOs just leaving or getting fired. I mean, this is like all of them, right? And there were so many things that were happening. It's almost like they knew it was coming, right? It's almost like they knew it was coming. In any case,
in fact, John Pilger, like I mentioned, this is a journalist I really admire, who does also admire the work of Vanessa B. Lee, and he's now very closely associated with Consortium News. But I was watching an interview with him on the very underrated RT program Going Underground with Afshin Ratanzi, and he was talking about how China's often scapegoated as it's their fault that this pandemic happened. I think there's some truth to that. Right. But what he was saying was what you were just saying, was that the British government alone knew well in advance that there was a pandemic coming their way. They even planned for if a pandemic like this were to happen. And instead of responding the way they should have responded, they continue to privatize and dismantle the NHS, and either they knew full well that this was about to happen, or they were just criminally neglectful and thought, it's only China this is only China this is going to affect. We're going to continue privatizing the NHS, and then lo and behold, now it's blown up in their face. And again, instead of suspending the reactionary rules of capitalism, which is keeping people, socially, keeping people at home and all that stuff, doing mass testings and not, everyone, going to, school or going to work where they're all exposed. What they've just been doing is saying, hey, go to work, go to school, and if you get coronavirus, tough shit, and your business is going to shit because of coronavirus, well, we're not going to bail you out, but we are going to bail out all of the, the top 10 people who are on the stock market and all that stuff.
Yeah, essential workers got hosed. My wife was one, and then the pandemic came. The essential workers still haven't been relieved. You can see here's the thing that gets me. So they have football games now, right? You can play football, you can play professional sports, get tested, whatever the case may be. But there's so many double standards to this. I do understand that there is a virus. According to my numbers and the numbers of many, it's not that bad. I mean,
okay.
Yeah, that's me, because, and if you believe that the actual numbers, here's why. So if you have, here's an example. a man, this actually happened. A man was shot at 11 times. 7 bullets hit him. He tested positive for COVID, but by the way, he died on the spot. Okay, after he was shot by police.
Yeah.
The thing was they listed him as a COVID death.
Yeah. I've
So
heard about
there's
that. Yeah.
I'm just saying the numbers don't make any sense to me, because you also have people that commit suicide. They slit their wrists, they overdose, you have car accidents. This actually happened where the guy, I'm not going to bring it out right now, but a few times, this has happened a few times, where car accident, die at the scene of the crash, they test him later, he dies of COVID, the insurance won't cover him because it's not a car accident. Because they listed it as a COVID death. That actually happened. Now, this has happened hundreds or maybe thousands of times, but the fact of the matter is most of the people that are dying, like 92.6%, this is the CDC's numbers, are over 78 years old. Like over 65, excuse me, over 65. And a lot of people really don't do well with colds or flus, and it turns into pneumonia. Now, I'm not debating that there is a virus, but what I am debating is if you're using that system, which, let me just, if I could read this off to you real quick. And
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so what's happening is, and this came out in like April or May. There was, and I as soon as I heard this, I'm like, what? Now that just doesn't make any sense at all. Just give me a second. I'm almost there. There I am. So, I think it was in April or May. Dr. Ngozi Jug, I think it's a silent N. She is her Ngozi Ezek from the Illinois Department of Public Health, and it's still on YouTube. Tells us what their process is, and the process is, if you were in hospice and had already been given a few weeks to live, and then you also were found to have COVID, then that would be counted as a COVID death. It means, and this is her words, it means technically even if you died of a clear alternate cause, but you had COVID at the same time, it's still listed as a COVID death. So everyone who's listed as a COVID death doesn't mean that that was the cause of the death, but that had COVID at the time of the death. Now, if you can get that, I'm just like, what? So once I heard that, I'm like, this is nuts. I mean, if that's the protocol and that's the way it goes, then so if you die from suicide and they have, I mean, there's other ways that you can die that definitely COVID or any flu can contribute to a death. Respiratory failure, hypertensive, diabetes, vascular and unspecified dementia, aka Joe Biden, cardiac arrest, heart failure, or renal failure. But the big thing is this is on the CDC website. Intentional and unintentional injury, poisoning, and other adverse effects, like overdose, suicide, poisoning, drowning, car accidents. I mean, the list, but they're still labeling these as COVID deaths. Oh my God, these marketing people are relentless. They are. It's just crazy. It's crazy.
Well, there was also there was also the issue when the coronavirus outbreak first came out, not in China. Once it became a European and a Western problem, the response of most governments, most if not all of the Western governments, was that this is nothing to take seriously. You even had I follow British politics very closely because England's like just across the pond from where I'm living, Belgium, and Yeah, and the response of of the current Prime Minister Boris Johnson was that, oh, this is nothing to worry about. It's only the old that are going to be affected. So, and he was literally saying, start preparing for like funerals and stuff like that, and was saying all sorts of things like, oh, we're going to be doing this herd immunity thing and just keeping old people isolated and stuff like that. And again, and John Pilger was saying that's a terrible response to coronavirus, because if you're keeping old people very isolated, in which they're not allowed to like leave their houses or interact with like their their grandchildren, their families, and so forth. The leading cause of death is going to be is going to be isolation. It's going to be social isolation and so forth like that. And you saw, there was very much a bizarre kind of like neo-eugenics, ageism thing that was going on in the West, in which it was just like,
say eugenics?
in which it was basically like, yeah, let all the old people die. If young people get affected, okay, yeah, it's going to be terrible for young people, but they're going to come out full swinging from coronavirus. And now lots of even if you are a young person that gets coronavirus and you are recovering, it's a pretty awful, recovery process. But the response of much of the West was just like, yeah, old people are going to be dying, so just keep old people isolated. If young people get affected, well, young people, just go out, but don't, practice, social distancing and stuff like that. Right. And you're getting all of this mixed message that's going on.
The mixed messaging.
Yeah. In which people don't know how to make heads or tails. So I don't know how it was throughout the U.S., but the U.S. this is also the problem you have when you give too much autonomy to different provinces and different states. But like in Belgium, things were like locked down. Like I couldn't go to Brussels for a good 3 months, and the numbers were going down. And so the response you would think is, okay, let's stay the course for this, and hopefully, while we give people, universal basic income, let's suspend people having to, pay their rent and so forth. But instead, the powers to be basically forced all of those governments, in EU, NATO countries to basically say, okay, no, we're not going to be doing that. So you need to tell all of your workers, you need to tell all those people who go to school, back to work, back to school. And lo and behold, all of a sudden the numbers keep rising and rising, and they have not stopped. So if this is a terrible disease and an extremely highly infectious disease, you would think, okay, why not do what the Chinese are doing? Why not do what worked in the beginning? Approaching summer, which is, everybody try to stay at home and only go out for the bare minimum, which is shopping and seeing, an elderly relative. But now they're not doing that. Now it's whole back to work, back to school thing. And if you get coronavirus, tough shit for you. On top of all of the very, dodgy statistics they're releasing about, how somebody gets coronavirus, how you die from coronavirus, and all that jazz.
Here's the point I'm basically trying to make, and you're getting it, is none of this is consistent. None of what has been happening and how they're doing everything and how they're, now the CDC has just said that the lockdowns aren't good, and that they're going back and forth on this entire. It's either the biggest hoax ever created on the planet, or and I know Trump has said this, or they're just a bunch of bumbling idiots. And I'm gonna go for the latter. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the latter first, for sure.
I think just don't know their ass from a hole in the ground.
Right.
And it's so obvious. It's so obvious. In fact, we were mentioning just off camera. You were asking me, if I follow the Jimmy Dore show, and I was watching, a clip he was doing where he was explaining why people are very skeptical to this whole coronavirus crisis. And it's because Fauci himself, I think this is Trump's, well, not Trump's attorney general. No, the medical attorney general. What's the title they have?
Uh, the it's the God, I hate that. The medical. It's not medical. Gosh, it'll come. I wish somebody was in chat.
A medical assistant general, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So
yeah.
so Fauci, yeah. So and the reason why I'm saying this is America is because everyone keeps saying this is all Trump's fault, and no, guys,
Surgeon General.
Exactly, the Surgeon General.
Right.
He, along with the rest of the West, was, to try to make people not panic and lose their shit, was saying things like, hospital masks aren't very effective.
Right.
So everybody got that message. Now they're saying that everybody should be wearing hospital masks. And Jimmy Dore was showing this clip where the guy was literally admitting on 60 Minutes or Fox or wherever he was interviewed, saying like, oh, we were only saying that because we just did not want to create a panic because we did not have enough hospital masks to give. And now that shit has hit the fan, now of course they're saying to people, if you do not wear a hospital mask, even if it's not very effective, but if you're not wearing a hospital mask, you're most likely going to get it. And again, we go back to this mixed messaging, and is somebody just making like a buck out of this thing just so that they can sell a bunch of hospital masks on Redbubble.com or something?
Right. And then you had the Surgeon General, right? And it was one of the doctors, the bald guy. It's not Fauci. Fauci is just like a consultant of the administration, and he gets on there and he starts folding up like a handkerchief. He's on this is like within the first month or two of this, and he's there folding up a handkerchief and how to use a rubber band to make a mask, and everybody's like, are you fucking kidding me? That doesn't stop a goddamn virus. Are you fucking kidding? Because the particles, and they're like nanometers, like 90 nanometers, just tiny little things. They cling on to, moist water droplets, H2O in your body. It comes. It's just whatever. But the biggest thing is you can't see this, but I'm going to show on here. There's this big. I've got this. You can't see it, but it's a dinner because I'm on OBS. But it still shows you and I. I just switched to a different screen. It shows a dinner with Obama and Larry Ellison from Oracle, Eric Schmidt from Google, Mark Zuckerberg, Cisco Systems,
Twitter. Nice to know that Obama is still wheeling and dealing with.
Yeah, this isn't new. This isn't new. But the thing is you've got Apple in there. Steve Jobs was in there. This is an older picture. But the reason why I'm posting this picture is it's what people don't realize is it's a big club, and I don't know if you've heard George Carlin say this in one of his bids. It's a big club, and you ain't in it, man. And the thing, and these people are diabolical. They'll create things, and like 9/11. I don't know if you know anything about Building 7 of 9/11, and I don't want to get too deep in that, but are you familiar with Building 7?
Building 7 not so much, but I am familiar with the whole 9/11 true conspiracy theories, which I have to say, I saw loose change back when Bush was still back when Bush was still president, and there was a period where I was open to the idea of the 9/11 conspiracy theories, and then I kind of just was like, nah, there's no way that the government could have been that sick. They were just incompetent. Although now I'm more, now I'm actually sort of much more open to it. And I actually was flirting with the idea of actually getting on somebody like Robbie Martin on 1+1 to discuss that.
I would.
Not
It'd be
saying
good for you.
Not saying I even endorse the whole 9/11 conspiracy theories, but just why not talk about it? Because there's so much unanswered questions, and I think the one thing where the whole 9/11 truth movement, the one thing which I think actually kind of vindicates their argument is that the Project for a New American Century, this ghastly, neocon outfit, which heavily influenced, the Bush administration. I mean, many of the people who even signed this, this ridiculous letter and this whole outlet worked in the Bush administration, and they said in the Project for a New American Century that that America needs a 9/11. We need a 9/11. No, not 9/11. No, we need a new Pearl Harbor. That's what they said. That we need a new Pearl Harbor. And once once we have this new Pearl Harbor, we can easily take advantage of a war with Iraq and Syria and Lebanon and Sudan and so forth like that. And coincidence that that the biggest attack on American soil since Pearl Harbor did happen, and now all of a sudden, the Bush administration got carte blanche to do all sorts of evil shit, like building a Department of Homeland Security, the Patriot Act, and then of course
the NDAA, which was terrible.
And of course, the Afghanistan war and the Iraq war and so forth. And so, I'm, starting to get more and more, skeptical of what governments say. And you can have 2 points of views. And I was having this conversation with, with one of my best friends about the whole coronavirus. Was this just some innocent, animal infection, which got way out of control due to incompetence and due to government trying to cover this up, or was this the whole thing that the powers to be knew well in advance was coming their way, and they decided to take full advantage of this by doing more reactionary shock doctrine policies? And you either can have one or 2 point of views. Either you think that governments are only evil sometimes and criminally criminally neglectful at best,
right?
Or you take the point of view of a George Carlin or a Bill Hicks, which is all governments are liars and murderers. Nothing they say should ever be believed, even
Bill
if
Hicks
it's a
was
government.
a great comedian as well. Yeah. And
even if it's a government that you do support, like the Bolivarian government of Venezuela. So you can take 1 or 2 points of views that governments are only evil sometimes, and that you can reform them and reform the police, and that they only do evil sometimes, and that they're criminally neglectful at the best of times. Like, 9/11 only happened because the Bush administration, they knew that there was a threat coming, but they just didn't take it too seriously. Coronavirus pandemic, it's only happening because they just didn't take the threat too seriously. So that's that point of view. Or you have the more cynical point of view, which is all of these governments are bought by corporations, and they're all just a bunch of criminals. And I tend to take more that side nowadays. And that's because of the journalism of Whitney Webb. I mean, once you read her entire Epstein series, where you have the Sicilian Italian Jewish American mafia working with FBI law enforcement, working with the American, British, and Israeli deep state to do what? To do a mass human trafficking and sexual blackmail thing, where they have their friends in the entertainment industry and the fashion industry working. And I think Whitney Webb, I think we both agree her journalism is very credible. And I think once you read that entire series, you go away thinking, wow, how evil can the powers to be? And they've taken that evil to a whole new ballpark. And then of course you start to have to look at what the governments did with the Tuskegee experiment. Look at what governments did to our own Native Americans, Native Hawaiian, Native Alaskans, the whole residential school program. And I was taught that Native Americans only got smallpox just by accident by by the white man. It's only when I did my own research and when I saw other documentaries where I realized that, holy shit, my 2nd and 3rd grade teacher lied to me. They didn't just get smallpox, they were purposely infected with smallpox.
Yes. And people don't even know that. There's a percentage of people out there on the planet that will stray, like I said. I'm proud to be a conspiracy theorist. I am. And there's somebody that you should look up also. His name is the Colbert, not the Colbert Report, like late night
James
television.
Corbett. James
Corbett.
Yeah.
Great stuff. He's been doing his stuff for a long time. He's got in some. He's got in some really deep places, but on the surface, he's generally correct in my opinion. But when he does dive, this kid, just like Whitney, Marianas Trench, man. They're freaking down there miles, and it's impressive to see people like that still out there. I mean, I do a lot of research myself. I mean, what does it take to be a journalist? I mean, you have people now that are the AP, Associated Press, and then you have NPR, right? None of them, for some reason, will mention Julian Assange. That fucking boggles my mind. But the reason is, and everybody knows this, is they just want their jobs, they want their paychecks. They don't care about the news. And not only
that, they've also I love when WikiLeaks was exposing all this all these systemic war crimes that happened in Iraq, in Afghanistan, as well as as well as how the U.S. and so forth, how they were wheeling and dealing behind the scenes at the United Nations to make sure that everybody was falling in line. And the reaction amongst many people, including journalists who tend to be, the honorable exception, who do, challenge power, was that WikiLeaks isn't a journal, that Julian Assange is a journalist. WikiLeaks isn't a publishing, whistleblowing place. It's a what was this? That they were hackers. Yeah, that was the thing. That they were just
they were part of Russia. They were connected to Russia. I mean, it just. Right, they're part of RussiaGate. That's how they tried to suppress their information. So it's really sad that we always see, every time you get close to something, the closer you get, the more censored you're getting lately. Period. And I posted all kinds of stuff on my Facebook, my Twitter. I get pulled, I get censored, I get the independent fact checkers, because they're independent because they're not responsible if they're wrong. Is that why they're independent? Why don't you just say just say our fact checkers? They won't say our fact checkers because they don't want to take accountability if they've been fucked up for so long. Well, we know we got COVID wrong, we know we got 9/11 wrong, and all this other shit wrong. But since we use independent fact checkers, we're not responsible. We're not taking accountability for it.
I think all of those journalism outlets, and I don't want to just bash corporate media. I think we've all read Noam Chomsky. We all know fairness and accuracy in reporting. Yeah. We all know that corporate media is not to be trusted, and at the best of times, take them with a grain of salt. But it's also even left-leaning media. It's also so-called nonprofit media, independent left-leaning media, which has also been shameful in how they threw Julian Assange bus, and how they repeated State Department talking points that, oh, he's not really a journalist, he's a hacker, and that, oh, he's a narcissist, and oh, he's a troublemaker, and oh, he's in cahoots with the Russians, or he's in cahoots with the Trump campaign. All a bunch of, to quote John Pilger when I saw him in an audience, is a bunch of bollocks.
Yeah, freaking. So when you have the same people and publications, right, and this is important, that brought you 9/11, that brought you Syria, that brought you weapons of mass destruction with Iraq, that brought you the Kuwait. The only news source when the Kuwaiti War happened, which was Desert Storm, and I was in that. I was in the Navy at the time, and I was stationed by where you used to live, in Alameda. You're from San Mateo, right?
Yeah. I grew up for 8 years in San Mateo County. Yeah.
Nice. So the thing was.
Like Menlo Park, Hillsborough, and Woodside.
Yeah, you're across the pond. Alameda's across the pond from you. So here's the thing. All those same sources, whether it's some information from a study from Oxford or a study from Stanford or a study from Berkeley, which is funded heavily by big pharma, funded heavily by the military industrial complex, because they take these kids. As soon as they get out, they've got them. And they're making their weapons, and they're making their drugs, and they're making, all the technology, MIT. They're putting out this information, right, that they've been doing for a long time. So when you got Desert Storm, you got Iraq, weapons of mass destruction, Syria war. I mean, now we've got, Venezuela's happening and all this other shit. And I mean, you could go back to fucking Grenada. You say Grenada. I say
Yeah,
you can go
exactly.
back as far as that. But this is my biggest point, is we're trusting these people that 5, 10, 15, 20 years later we find out was bullshit, and history is totally backwards with what's happening now with COVID. So you have to, if you're a human being on the planet right now, you have to fully and completely question authority, question the media, the sources, and get the information straight from the horse's mouth. I don't know if you're familiar, I think that's totally and absolutely important.
Yeah, I mean,
and I know you agree with that. I know you agree with that.
I completely agree with you about it. But this goes back to what I was saying, which is, I think unfortunately you have too many people. I'm not saying that people need to always be skeptical of of big bad evil governments. I mean,
I think you do.
As a socialist and Marxist and an eco-socialist,
yeah.
I tend to think that people can be good in positions of powers if you have the right people.
Yeah, no doubt.
But this goes back to what I was saying, which is, people either have 2 points of views, which is either that governments are only evil sometimes, the police are only evil sometimes. It's just a few bad apples,
right,
as they always say, not like a rotten system rotten to the core.
Right.
So there's those people, and then there's people, and I tend to kind of lean more nowadays. I tend to lean more towards that you have to be completely skeptical of government, and that governments don't really give a shit about you, your family, and the betterment of society. It's
right,
only interested in that 1% and expanding that power wherever it goes,
right,
even if it sometimes means that they butt heads with their own kind. Because we see now with capitalism, it's just a bunch of rival oligarchs that are always fighting one another. Actually,
right, yeah.
End of the day, if you look at Eastern Europe, if you look at Russia, it's just a bunch of rival oligarchs duking it out like a bunch of mobsters having a mob war. And which is why it astounds me that that majority of people who are working class and people who are self-employed or people who are in low-wage jobs or people who do have a job but they're poor, the working poor, and it just amazes me that we've not come together to overthrow these bastards when they're not even united at the best of times. You look at a Republican debates or a Conservative Party of Canada's debates. These are all oligarchs, and yet they're all completely rude to each other. They're all insulting one another. They're all saying, "I have the better plan of destroying humanity than your plan."
Yeah, nobody. Yeah, if you've seen the movie, I know you've seen this movie. It's one of my favorite movies, Trading Places, right, with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy.
I need to watch that movie.
Actually. Oh my God, you haven't seen that movie? Oh,
no,
you've got to see that movie. Okay, then I can't talk about it. I'll just tell you this one scene.
I'll make sure to watch it.
Yeah. Dude, you got to watch that movie. You've got to watch that movie because there are people out there that are so high and so prestigious, and I call them the CE1s, the corporate elite 1%. Okay, the CE1s. I used to call our party the two-party oligarchy. Now I just call it the corporate fucking party because they're all kind of the same.
Exactly.
Right? There you go. But the CE1s and these people in this one piece of this movie is fucking hilarious. It was just very telling. They make a bet. They pay, one pays the other for a bet that they could take some person and turn him into a rich millionaire, and then take another one down, and one guy and the other guy had lost a dollar bet to ruin a man's life and create a man's life. They bet a dollar. That's it. It's for some of these people, it's just a fucking game to them. The mentality of the 1%. Once look, I know there's some nice places in Southern California and by San Mateo, Berkeley. You have all the vineyard industry, the wine country out there. There's some great people, but I've been to parties of societies in Hollywood, in Beverly Hills, in Bel Air. When I lived in LA, I've only been here for like 2 years. But the thing is I know the mentality of these people. They're fucking eccentrically nuts. They're fucking nuts. They think a certain way, they do things a certain way, and they don't give a fuck about you. And these are the same people that are giving their orders because they're the largest donating percentage of every fucking candidate out there. Every candidate that's out there, and it's because of Citizens United and McCutcheon versus the FEC and money into politics. This is what you're seeing, and this is what you're seeing. You're seeing all, and this was created. This has been orchestrated for decades, so that now the only people that actually have, and if you follow represent.us, represent us, if you ever seen some of their videos, it clearly states right in the beginning, and I think it was who's the guy that came out and said that? Somebody very, very old, very prominent. It wasn't Robert De Niro. It was somebody close to that, right? Yeah. That comes out and says right off the bat, he goes, "Our votes don't count anymore." And it's like 90, and they show this graph that like 80% of what's passed legislatively through the U.S. Congress has nothing to do with what the 99% want. Everything they pass is for the 1%. And people aren't even understanding this. So when all this comes around, just letting you know, this vaccine, this warp speed fucking vaccine, like the fastest vaccine that could ever be made, that has ever been made, took 4 years, by the way. The fastest, right? So now within 8 months, Trump's already saying, "Oh, you can fucking take it now." I'm like, whoa, what? Right? And then these giant companies, we're talking 7 to 8 billion people on the planet right now that they could push this, and it's about $400 to $3,000 a vial or a pop, right? Imagine the fucking money Big Pharma is going to make from this.
Big Pharma is going to make it killing.
Yeah, a giant killing.
What's also annoying is, if you look at corporate media, and even if you even if you read or watch a lot of left-leaning media, your Democracy Nows of the world, your Bill Moyers of the world, Nation magazine, and all of that, they tend to do this whole good apples, bad apple thing. So Bill Gates is kind of a good apple. Rupert Murdoch is a bad apple. Koch brothers are the bad apples, but George Soros is the good apple.
Right.
And the Rockefeller Foundation, good apples because they donate money to us to keep our independent media alive. But somebody like the oil industry, those are the bad apples. But the Rockefellers have now seen the light of day, so now they're the good apples. So you do this whole good apple, bad apple thing, right, instead of realizing that, hold up, no, the system is rotten to the core. You can call it capitalism, you can call it corporatism, you can call it, oligarchy, plutocracy, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. But the system itself is rotten to the core, and we need radically a whole new system. Venus Project, some kind of a democratic Marxism, something like that. But the system as it currently stands is not working and is not fit for purpose. And it's very annoying how even so much of the left has been co-opted by these same things, like because I'm an NGO critic, and a lot of the people who have come on 1+1 are also big NGO critics, and and we've talked at length about how Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch has recycled the Venezuela propaganda, even recycled the Haiti propaganda that Jean Bertrand Aristide was some dictator that needed to be overthrown. I mean, you talked about Grenada, and it just goes on and on and on, and it's just amazing how people who once upon a time went into the streets to protest Vietnam, even if you weren't a fan of like Ho Chi Minh, but you had people who went into the streets protesting the Vietnam War as an imperialist war that was. People who even protested the Iraq War way before the bombs dropped, and didn't even fall into a lot of the half truths that were used against Saddam Hussein, are now the same people who, when you talk to them about Syria, or you talk to them about Ukraine, or you talk to them about what's going on in Belarus, these are the same people who once upon a time, again, would have protested the Iraq War, and for some reason they're convinced that Syria is the good war, that Assad is the dictator you need to overthrow, and there are moderate rebels that are trying to overthrow him. I'm like, dude, there are no moderate rebels trying to overthrow him. There's a secession movement, amongst the Kurds, and all of the other rebels are all a bunch of disgusting, reactionary Sunni extremists who want to kill anything or anyone that does not convert into their version of Islam, and a very warped version of Islam at best.
It's really so. I think our point is, and I know we're agreeing with this, is the way you, let's just say, like the way you're in a restaurant, you're tasting the food, and all of a sudden you're like, this just doesn't seem like it's right, man. It's just, there's something wrong with this. So I'm the person that'll say, manager, could you take a look at this? It just doesn't. Oh, you know what? We brought you the wrong pasta. Then you find out that they brought the wrong. It's similar, but not the same. But you have to ask. You have to question these things. Oh, here's a good one. I was at Carl's Jr., or I don't know if you're familiar with that. Carl's, which I think you are. Carl's Jr. Hardee's over here. And I bit into one of the burritos, and a piece of plastic was in it, the size of a dime, hard plastic. And I'm just, oh, Jesus, man, this is just fucking nuts. But see, when you go back to all the information regarding COVID, I mean, you've got, and I'm just going to show, you won't be able to see this, but I'm going to show, who is this? It's Cuomo. In regards, I know, right? Cuomo comes out.
Talk about selling a good apple. Trump is the bad apple, but Cuomo and any progressive or pseudo progressive.
I guess he's the good apple. No, okay, whatever. So what he does,
in California.
So everybody, and I've seen it, and I've gotten reports, is that all the hospitals are overfloated and overfilled and overflowing with deaths and people and all this stuff. And then he comes out and says just now, New York hospitals were never overwhelmed at peak of COVID-19, Cuomo claims. It's like, wait a second. You said it was a giant emergency back in those times. So what's happening is they're forgetting what their script is.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? They're forgetting what they're supposed to be saying, or what they're doing. And when you were talking about foundations, there was one in there that you didn't mention, which I'm sure you've heard of, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Yes.
And you have to know this because the Clinton Foundation, and now they have a new Obama Foundation. Well, that business model is very profitable. It's the greatest process of evading detection, evading accountability, and evading taxes. It is fucking amazing what these people are able to do just because they have a not-for-profit or nonprofit foundation, right? Which is just
sounds nice.
Nuts. Yeah,
sounds nice. Nonprofit foundation. When really, in the end of the day, they actually work like a proper for-profit foundation.
Oh yeah, no.
It's just Orwellian bullshit.
Yeah. It's just they're able to put money in certain places and not pay taxes for it, so they can still have income. I'm just telling you.
I love how Bill Bill Gates, a guy who doesn't even have a background in medicine, doesn't even have a background in medicine. The guy was, and I'm not bashing him for dropping out of college. I also dropped out of college, but come on, this is a guy who dropped out of college to start a computer company.
Right.
But we now know that like so much of the internet was all funded by by the government. It wasn't this brilliant libertarian genius scheme that that so many people started. It was all very much well funded by the government. And we're having this guy who runs a corporation like anyone else runs a corporation. If you have to fire people, you have to fire people. If you have to use cheap labor in China and Vietnam and Africa for mining interests, we're going to do it. And yet he's sold to us in the Guardian and the New York Times and even in progressive left-leaning outlets as the good apple, who just wants to help Africa and so forth and India from the bottom of his heart, even though so much of his foundation gets money from Monsanto, and on and on and on the deception goes.
Yeah. Like I said, the CE ones run this fucking country. And I wish I could play it for you right now, but George Carlin clearly knew this. Bill Hicks clearly knew this. Jimmy Dore clearly knows this, which I find surprising that Jimmy Dore doesn't talk about COVID. Maybe doesn't want to get, because once you start talking about it, YouTube will fucking, fuck you, right? They'll cut you off in a heartbeat.
Well, and the fact that Whitney Webb is called a conspiracy theorist, but she's not a conspiracy theorist. All she's doing is saying, guys, be very skeptical about the powers that be, because there is a shitload of shock doctrine and endless austerity which is going to destroy us all.
Yeah.
And the people who and the people who weaponized what happened after 9/11, the people who weaponize and who are very dodgy in the medical industry, these are the very people who are supposedly going to save us from coronavirus. Bill Gates, who was very chummy with Jeffrey Epstein and the Israeli deep state, these are the people who are going to save us from coronavirus.
Right. I mean, there's so many things that I believe is necessary to get out to the public that I would like to know is the 99%, but they have a different agenda. This is what they want you to know. This is how they want you to feel. They want you to fight against each other. I mean, if you can't spot divide and conquer that's happening in front of you, then somebody needs to explain what that fucking means to you, because there's a lot of people that don't understand that. And the biggest thing, and this is a big point I always bring up about Black Lives Matter, is the number one thing I don't hear them talking about is the number one thing that could cure all this fucking the brutalization, the militarization, whatever, how they militarily beef up these cops and with tanks and mortars and guns and just all this other shit, is money in politics. I have yet to hear a Black Lives, and I've sent out texts, messaging, I've sent out tweets, and tell me where you guys aren't bringing up, is somebody bringing up get money out of politics? Is anybody doing that?
Not even just that. I mean, it's funny how when people talk about the new Jim Crow, I think they only read the title of the book and not the actual contents of the book, because Michelle Alexander explicitly says that the drug war is the reason why we have mass incarceration.
Yeah.
Especially of black and brown folk, but the reason why we have mass incarceration and so many people, including white folk, who are overrepresented in jail for mainly non-violent offenses and mainly for having a little bag of marijuana and so forth, is because of the drug war. The reason why so many people aren't allowed to vote, so many people are impoverished, and the recidivism keeps going through the roof year after
Right.
year is mainly because of the drug war. And yet, I don't see many people in the Black civil rights movement, many social justice warriors talking about ending the bloody drug war and like heckling and demanding that politicians, whether it's the libertarian movement on the Republican side or the kind of Sandinista and Tulsitas on the Democratic side, saying "end drug war, end the drug war."
Right. Yeah, and the drug war.
And I don't even want decriminalization of marijuana and drugs. I want full, I want full, legalization. Get get the heroin off the streets and just put that into, painkillers and so forth.
Right.
Marijuana, have a sensible, marijuana industry which is far away from children. Be strict on people's IEDs like you are with people who drink alcohol.
Yeah.
And because decriminalization, which is what we have in Holland, it's not really legalization, it's more decriminalization, is still a funny gray zone in which the police can easily, shoot down coffee shops and stuff like that.
If they wanted to, okay, so here's what's interesting about California, because I'm in West Virginia, but West Virginia, if you show a joint or a bud or some pot leaf to a cop, he's gonna fucking throw you to the ground and stick you in jail. Or a fine or something like that. It's gonna be bad.
Yeah.
Recently, because of the California laws, I mean, I smoke pot on occasion, right? If I'm on vacation, I'm definitely gonna have a couple hits. But the thing, so we're out in California,
that's the best way to enjoy the vacation.
And we went out to the strip in Santa Ana, California. I don't know if you know where that's at, in Orange County. And there's like 10 pot shops, and they're really elaborate. And you just walk in, you got to show your ID to the security guy, and you just go, and they have all this giant assortment. They got bongs, they got all this stuff, and it's just, I mean, any kind of, it was a smorgasbord of fucking of pakalolo, which means pot in Hawaiian, pakalolo, and it was just amazing. And then you get over here, we're in the same country now. We're in the same country. You're fucked. You don't talk about it. You don't mention it. You don't say it. It's just ridiculous. I mean, when's the last time? Here's a good one. When's the last time? Just give me a sec. When is the last time if you saw somebody hold up a McDonald's that was on pot? Here's what that guy's going to do. He's going to walk in there. He's going to go, give me 4 Big Macs, 3 large French fries, and 5 apple pies, God damn it. And then he's going to walk out if he's stoned. And no, he'll probably sit there and fucking eat it. That's what he'll do, right? Now, what happens with drugs and opioids,
so that when he does have to go home.
opioids, alcohol, all this stuff, that same person will go in there and probably kill people, right? He just, I can't believe, and it's the registered or the listed type 1 drug is still pot, and Biden's for that. Biden's like, sure.
In fact, I think even in Britain, I think pot is still like a class, whatever, like the worst drug you can consume.
Yeah, it's a type 1 drug. Type 1
on par with like heroin, cocaine, and ecstasy.
Right.
Even though it's the safest one you can consume, but just make sure you don't make it too much of a habit, because you do got work to go to if you do have a job and so forth. And Christopher Hitchens, who unfortunately became a neocon and an R2P type of figure towards towards the end of his life, but he wrote a really good article where he was talking about ending the drug war, and he was saying that what the powers to be should be doing in Afghanistan, don't have a war on drugs in Afghanistan, like just make that drug legal, because it's the #1 cash crop in Afghanistan, such an impoverished country, and you can use all of those poppies, all of those opiates to make medicine, to make painkillers, which is such a huge shortage in the very underdeveloped, underfunded, and impoverished hospitals of Afghanistan.
Right.
And we all know prohibition doesn't work. All we have to do is say alcohol, prohibition, 1920s, and we've just won the argument. But the people who continue to think that prohibition works when it comes to cocaine or heroin, marijuana, and so forth are just people who just do not want to accept that truth. And unfortunately, they keep bloody winning because they're in power, and we still have this mass incarceration industry that's going on, not just in America, but globally. I mean, now you have, like, Philippines, like, bloody vigilantes shooting people up just for, consuming drugs. It's just crazy.
It is nuts. So let's dive in real quick, because I think you wanted to talk about this. Before I go to that, I just wanted to show you. Now, you mentioned Max Blumenthal. So I call him Super Max. I call him Super Max. He's amazing. But recently, and we'll talk about this. He just did an amazing interview with, who the heck was it? The leader of Salvador. Wait, hold on. What the hell was his name?
The leader of El Salvador, or in Bolivia.
Bolivia or something like that. And he got. I mean, what's interesting is nobody. Gosh, where is it? I'm looking for the information on it, and I'm not. I just know that you brought it up. I had it here on my Facebook, and I'm trying to find it. And of course, when I'm trying to find it, it freaking disappeared and probably got booted from my Facebook. Independent fact checkers, right? Those fucking bastards. Right, wait, I think I'm getting close.
But I've also noticed in Europe, we now get the whole warnings every time we watch a video from RT that this is we get that parental advisory sticker that RT is partially funded or fully funded by the Russian government.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
So the anti-Rush conspiracy theories has finally reached fever pitch in Europe as well.
They want to set up the premise there. They want to set us up like saying, so you'll take it as a grain of salt or you'll take it seriously. So, and when when everybody says they, when everybody says they, it's just the CE ones, man. I just call them the CE ones. The CE ones do this. The CE ones, the corporate elite 1%ers. Corporate elite 1%ers. And so Max, I've got it up. Max, the gray zone meets Maduro, right? Sorry, of Venezuela, not Salvador.
Yeah, from Venezuela.
That was an amazing interview. And I'm telling you, I was impressed. And he asked the questions that are needed. This just never happens. It just fucking never happens. I think besides that being a great interview, I have it up. You can't see it, but it's on YouTube. But people just look it up. The Gray Zone meets Maduro. You got to look at that. It basically tells you what's really going on.
Get Max's book, The Management of Savagery, how the national security state, I'm paraphrasing, gave us, Donald Trump and ISIS. Yeah, get his book, The Management of Savagery. It is a tour de force and truth telling, and it's almost a celebration of the kind of independent journalism Whitney Webb, Ronnie Akalik, Vanessa Beeley, and others have been doing for the past 3 years. It's a fantastic book and amazing. And I still don't quite understand why so many on the left don't want to invite Max and others on their show. There you go.
Right or left. Right or left. Yeah, both sides don't want to invite these people anywhere. They don't want these. Okay, so there are some journalists that have been around for a long time that are gone. I think most of them have been killed or just accident, whatever. But and there is a list of some journalists that have been around for a long time that are still providing information that people have kind of forgotten about. Whitney Webb, Max Blumenthal, the young generation, the millennials that are out just crushing it. are doing what's necessary. Needs that something that we need now. Recently, you're not going to believe this, but I keep asking Jimmy Dore to talk about the COVID scam, not in the context of it being a hoax, like people want to say.
Yeah, exactly.
But in the context of the money and where it's going and how it's being made, and the people that are taking advantage of everybody else's subjugation, the tyranny and oppression we're going through. This should not be the new norm. This is fucking crazy. But the thing is there's money being made, and he needs to connect these dots, which I'm surprised he doesn't. So I put a tweet on, not a tweet, but I put in a super chat, and it cost me $5. And he brought up clarity and courage. And we need to not be censored. And his show is about censorship, one of the recent ones. And then I said, okay, clarity and courage, but you still aren't talking about the $1 trillion COVID gorilla in the room. I mean, you gotta talk about this, man. This is just, and he's never touched it. And I don't see Kyle Kalinske touching it. I don't see the Humanist Report touching it. I don't see a lot of these guys just won't touch this. And like I said, there is a fear here, and it comes from being deplatformed, demonetized, and this is their lifeblood. These people make money through their social media, right? They don't want to get. I think I'm getting some kind of. Hold on, just give me a second.
Sure.
No. So what's happening is, I got a good connection here, but sometimes it's slow. And when that little light in my OBS,
I think sort of the point you're trying to make is that even our most outspoken left-leaning, anti-war, anti-imperialist voices, even they sometimes either consciously self-censor themselves, or they just go to that place where they just don't want to, where they don't want to go.
I don't understand.
I've been surprised. I remember I used to watch the Real News Network religiously. I still like
So they do have some good stuff on there sometimes. Still, I still watch them. Yes.
But I have big difference with them on some of their recent editorial lines, which I won't get into anyway.
Yeah.
I remember back when they used to allow us to comment and so forth, and I would always ask them, always, I would say to them, why don't you get Whitney Webb on your show? Why don't you get Vanessa Beeley on your show? Why don't you get others from Black Agenda Report like Margaret Kimberly and so forth on your show? And it never. Because there were some lines they took about Ukraine and so forth, which I thought was weird. Or when they came to Syria, they would only invite on Max Blumenthal and occasionally Ron Yakolik, but not Whitney Webb and others who also went full circle in debunking it. But so there's this it's a strange thing, and Whitney Webb's only been on the Real News once. And that was a very brief interview to talk about her, her findings on the whole, human trafficking, sexual blackmail network, in which, to use her words and Maria Farmer's words, Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were just project managers of. Mm-hmm. But so many don't even want to touch the whole Epstein thing, and that's why I have great respect for Slow News Day, Graham Elwood, Graham who has that Jimmy Dore popularity, who have invited Whitney Webb on because there is a bizarre self-censorship that is going on amongst even our best left-leaning folks. And I've even asked on many Zoom events, when Israel has been the topic, why don't more Palestine solidarity groups and people power organizations raise up the whole issue of the whole Epstein thing, because this is all three of the deep state. This is the American, British, and Israeli deep states working with even people in the entertainment and fashion industry and FBI law enforcement to commit human trafficking, and for what? To make sure that the powers to be stay in line, and to make sure that Israel can continue with impunity its colonial project in Palestine and elsewhere. Like this should be making like anti-war, anti-human trafficking societies, anti-slavery societies all merge into one to demand justice for these Epstein victims, and yet nobody wants to even touch the whole Epstein thing, and they still continue to make it all. And even when Rising, with Crystal Ball and and Sagar, when they even talk about the whole Epstein thing, I've not heard the names Whitney Webb mentioned once.
But no, no. There's like I said, there's a lot of journalists out there that are being ignored because it's not the mainstream narrative. And it doesn't serve the purpose of the CE1s, which that what that nomenclature means. So another person I think we need to bring up is Last American Vagabond, and he's
yes, the Last American Vagabond, where Whitney Webb now works, Sads.
Yeah, and that guy, if he could condense because his shows are fucking forever, they're like 2 or 3 hours. Right, and that's the problem is nobody has time because there's so much information out there, so many different sources. I mean, it's fucking overwhelming. So when you try to go to a place like his show on YouTube, Last American Vagabond, and he just clearly spells out everything and the way it's happening. He's not biased. He's not unbiased. He's not anything. He's just throwing the information out there. He provides the links. Look it up yourself. He gives you the .coms. He gives you the footnotes. The quotes and everything are right there. He provides a ton of information. But it's about TikTok. If you don't get your information on TikTok, because our minds are so conditioned to where we have to have immediate information
Twitter,
right
Facebook.
now. Yeah, Twitter, Facebook. You can only put down in Twitter 250 words or whatever. And then in Facebook, you can fucking write a novel, which sadly I've done. But here's the problem with the conditioning.
And even when I put the titles of my show, I recently had Dimitri Lascaris back on the show, and and I wanted the title of the show to be Youri interviews Dimitri Lascaris. Where do the eco-socialist and the anti-imperialist movement go from here? Couldn't even fit that in, and I had to do this kind of like first draft title for it. So that's an interesting observation in and of itself.
Hey, I got a quick question for you. Are you able to vote? Where do you vote at? Do you vote in the United States still, or how do you do that?
Here's an interesting thing. So I lived in America for 8 years, and but my father is Dutch and my mom is from the Congo. I do have like an expired an expired green card. So I actually can't vote, and we didn't get our American citizenship, even though I think we could have by the time we were in the 7th year, but by the time 7 was going on 8, father's job had us, move to Belgium. So I actually can't vote, which is why I was saying to you when you were asking me how I would like to be introduced nationality-wise, and I said to you, "Oh, that's an interesting story. Just say that I'm a North American trapped in a Congolese Dutch body."
Wow, but you speak like perfect.
Said, that said, if I could vote, I would either vote or encourage people to vote for the Socialist Equality Party or the Party for Socialism and Liberation, or if you have Greens on your ballots, because I know that
I like the girl for president, Laura Lasada. I forgot her name, but she's peace and freedom. All the stuff that we're asking for. I just didn't want to vote for. I already mailed it in. I'm not voting for Biden.
Right, and Jesse Ventura. So I would encourage because my biggest audience for 1+1 are actually Americans. Second largest are Canadians. Third largest, people in the UK. And so if people wanted to ask my opinion, who should I vote for? I would say to them, vote for either the Socialist Equality Party, Party for Socialism and Liberation, vote for the Greens, peace and freedom, certainly vote, or if you don't have access to any of them due to the two-party political mitch-faxing that these two rival oligarch parties do, then okay, write in, your Jesse Ventures, or write in any of those candidates that that you would want, because oh yeah, there's no way if I could vote, there's no way I could vote for Joe Biden. I can't. I can't. I'm getting an allergic reaction just thinking about
I know, right? You start getting hives, you get sweats. It's terrible. Yeah, so I'm looking at your YouTube, 1+1. I want everybody to look at this. He's got some great guests, some amazing interviews. I've seen a few of them. Like Margaret Kimberly was on there. You had, God, it's just amazing. It's a lot of great people.
Did a 3-part interview with Whitney Webb on all things Epstein, and if people think that they already know everything there is to know about it, trust me, Whitney always enlightens you on another thing. Like, she told me that the royal family actually is much more powerful than people think, that they're not just this waste of space institution that gets all this free tax dollars. And when she told me that led me to do some more research on it. And so yeah, we've had Whitney Webb on, Eve Angler, Dimitri Lascaris, formerly of the Real News Network, who was a Green Party leadership candidates, and plenty of others as well.
Yeah, it's impressive. So this is something that I think we should do more often. Why don't we, if
Definitely,
it's okay with,
definitely.
if it's, because I really enjoy my conversations. The thing is, I got to get going. We're kind of over our time limit by about 20 minutes. But the thing is maybe we could go over and have a monotalk, or I can come on your show, whatever you want to do. It's okay with me. And
Hey,
we can
kind of
go through some courses of events that have happened, like a monthly, just, lifting up the rug with Youri and James. What did they sweep under the rug this month, right?
Definitely, and we'll definitely. I would. By the way, it's an honor that you invited me on the show. I would definitely love to come back more and be a regular guest, and we're definitely going to have to come by and talk about the latest bloodbath, which is going to be between the Crips and the Bloods, between the Democrats and Republicans, and it's not going to be pretty. It is not going to be pretty,
it's just because
whoever wins, the other side is going to be unhappy. Whoever cheats to win, the other side is going to be very unhappy, and I'm worried about the level of violence that could potentially
ensue. And this is something. Yes, thank you very much. And the reason why, and I don't mean to cut you off here, but I want everybody to know that is watching this show, that will watch this show, don't buy it. Do not buy the divide and conquer. You have more in common than you think. They're going to use race. They're going to use hate. They're going to use fear. They're using these masks. Look, if you don't want to fucking wear a mask, that's your right. Right? That's your right. If you want to, but if you cough on me, you're going to have a problem. Right? But my point is, we don't want this to escalate after November 3rd. After November 3rd, there's been talk, and I think Whitney kind of hinted on this, and a few others. God, we keep bringing that lady's name up. That, and another person you guys should watch is Stevie with Redneckonomics. Stevie with Redneckonomics.
I need to get into them. I've heard lots of good things.
No, she's amazing. She's got a lot of information she brings out. She's from West Virginia. Here's the other thing is, she's my wife. So I've got to plug.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Don't use this pun. Don't use this. Ready?
Full disclosure.
I have to plug her. God, that was bad. I'm gonna be in trouble for just saying this right now. I'm gonna be in trouble.
Well, I'm gonna be looking.
It's just a little advertisement, honey.
I'm gonna be looking forward to watching the interview with that. But I've been told nothing but good things about Redneckonomics, so I'll make sure that
Redneckonomics. What's cool is she got a beautiful Western Southern Belle accent, and she's just really informed. She really digs deep to get her information out there, and it's truly impressive. There's so many others that we could talk about that are out there getting information out. The thing I want to just basically tell everybody is, remember, the same people that brought you weapons of mass destruction, the Korean War, the Contra
Iraqi babies killing Kuwaitis.
Yeah, exactly.
Iraqi soldiers taking Kuwaiti babies out of incubators.
What's his name? Sprayed it, chemically killed his own people, which was proven to be totally false. Saddam, not Saddam, but I forget his name, but anyway, all this crap, all these people that have brought bullshit to you for decades have brought you COVID-19, right? So I want everybody to please look into this information much further. Check out some information that's coming out that is if it's being oppressed by, here's a good telltale sign. If Facebook or Twitter or YouTube is oppressing that information, then that means they're close. That's what that means, right? Because I don't care what Alex Jones says. I don't care what fucking whoever says. Let me decide if it's fucking crazy or not, right?
Exactly.
Am I right? I think I'm a big boy. I've done my research. I think I have a critical, analytical mind that can do whatever's necessary to make sure that the information that I'm putting in my head is either going to make sense or it's not. But their biggest concern, I guess, is because they think everybody's a fucking moron, or you're just a bunch of buffoons and you can't make up your own goddamn mind. So they have to make it up for you, which is wrong.
And also, quick solidarity for RT, Press TV, and Telesur, who are always subjected to double standards, triple standards,
right.
and of course, free Julian Assange. And we need to end the war on whistleblowers and the war on truth telling.
Tulsi came out with her new law that a bill that she's trying to pass. Free Snowden, free Assange, stop the what the hell was that? I hate when I have something at the tip of my tongue. Okay, no, what it is
but she's trying to introduce like a new law that would protect whistleblowers and publishers.
Yeah, and people in general. It's kind of dismantling it's dismantling the NDAA and the Patriot Act for when you're a spy, a world spy. God damn it! Anyway,
she's trying to. So her bill would kind of repeal the Espionage Act.
That's it. Thank you. Perfect. Because once you're labeled as a terrorist, and by the way, you could be, since I'm talking to you, and you're in a different country. This is what we need, people. You need to open up, you have to get the perspective of people in other countries and what they're seeing. If you think just because we're the richest country in the nation, we're the smartest, we're not. We're definitely not. Iceland, definitely a smart fucking country, right? Sweden, definitely a fucking... Right? There's some smart countries out there, but everybody has their flaws. You've got to get a perspective of everybody all over the planet.
Exactly, and I think we could all learn more from one another. I mean, on my show, I've covered British politics, covered Canadian politics, and even covered New Zealand politics recently. And what I've tried to show people is that is that no country is more dumber than another country. We all are facing the same problems. We're all facing a rampant oligarchy and an unjust system, and an unsustainable system which is killing the planet and it's going to end existence as we know it. And we can't do this whole thing where like this one's a better model than that one. No, we can all learn from one another, and it's us and that's what people power is all about. And it's all learning from one another and just joining forces to, fight against, the unjust system of either no universal health care in America or a privatized healthcare system that's being dismantled in, England, New Zealand, and so forth.
Yeah, it's against the CU1s, man. Remember the CU1s.
CU1s, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
In Hawaii, in In the United States, we have the corporate party. They used to be the two-party oligarchy, but I always consider them like it's the Clinton mafia against the Trump mafia. You know, I mean, what mafia is going to
Exactly.
as you said, it was the Crips and the Bloods. They're just fucking gangs. They're just fucking mafias. You know, who's going
No
to
good
corner
apples or bad apples,
Yeah,
just a rotten tree that needs
Yeah.
to be cut down, and we need to plant a new tree. And
There's just no better way to say it. They're just fucking mafias. Anyway, listen, I want to thank you for coming on here, Youri. It's great having you on. I was going to have RB Ham on here, who was from Canada or somewhere out there where you are, and he's really big on liberty, freedom, and stuff. But he had a medical thing going on with family, and he couldn't make it. But we'll try to get him on in the future.
Hey,
I want to say thank you for coming on here. Is there anything you want to say before you leave?
Thank you for inviting me on. I would definitely like to come back. I would definitely love to come back again, and so we'll organize something again.
Awesome. I'm going to send you some information on where I'm getting a little bit of my information. Start playing around with it. Send me all your contacts too, because the more contacts and information I can get, the better that we can know exactly what direction we need to go. And I'm not talking about me and the CE ones. I'm talking about me and the 99%.
Definitely,
Right?
definitely.
All right. Aloha, everybody. Thank you for coming on.
Prosper. Aloha to you, and I hope all is well with you and the family during this crazy ongoing
you too.
crazy times we're living in. All right.
All right. Take care.